Inkjet transfers on a gel plate are one of those techniques that can make you feel like a printmaking wizard or like you just wasted a perfectly good afternoon. Today I'm going to show you step by step exactly how I get an inkjet image to transfer to my gel plate. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it into an Annabel inspired mixed media piece. Let's start with the two things everyone wants to know, the printer and the paper. I'm using my regular HB 2855E DeskJet printer. The paper, though, is PPD double-sided brochure paper, 37 pound, and I need to put a giant imaginary asterisk beside this recommendation. This paper works for me. It does not seem to work for everybody with every printer under every conceivable alignment of the planets. Inkjet transfers can be annoyingly particular, so I'd absolutely experiment before buying enough brochure paper to open your own Office Depot, because this process depends not only on the printer, the paper, but also the gel plate brand that you're using. Here's the image I'm transferring. Now I need to trim away some of this excess because there are printed areas around the image that I don't necessarily want showing up as a ghost image on the plate. This does not have to be surgically precise. I'm just removing what I don't want transferred. One little practical warning though, if you're using this kind of brochure paper, don't lay it directly on top of your gel plate while you're cutting because it likes to stick very easily, which is exactly the sort of lesson that is more enjoyable when somebody else learns it. If learns it for you first and teaches you, you are welcome. Now we're at the part that actually matters. I'm going to position the print where I want the image on the gel plate. Once it's down, I'm giving it really firm pressure because I want good contact between that printed image and the surface of the plate. Don't just gently pat it like you're congratulating it for showing up. Really press it down. Notice, there is no paint between the gel plate and the image, like there is for laser image transfer. You are actually transferring the pigment-based dye from your printout to the paper. For this piece, I wanted something inspired by Annabel Lee. I wanted her looking down across the composition with fragments of text moving throughout the background, so the whole thing feels a little old, romantic, mournful, and slightly haunted. You know, just normal, cheerful Daystorm Studio material. One important distinction here, the additional images I'm bringing to the composition are laser printed images. So those are separate from the inkjet transfer technique that I just showed you. I don't want somebody pausing this video 6 months from now and yelling, "Hey Germ, you lied to me, yo." The first transfer is the inkjet demonstration. From here on, we're using mixed media. Look at that, it is spectacular. Now, I'm masking and layering portions of the composition because I want some areas to feel aged and worn rather than perfectly clean. Perfection isn't really the goal here. Actually, perfection is almost actively working against me. I want this to feel handmade. I want little irregularities and areas where the layers interact instead of looking like everything was digitally assembled and then politely placed exactly where it belonged. Because I'm working in Florida, drying time is occasionally less of a scientific measurement and more of a negotiation with humidity. So the thicker that this cover is here, the longer it's going to take for the mask or the block here to dry. It's supposed to be imperfect. It's supposed to look like it's handmade. This is an idea where this is looking. Look at that. Looks pretty cool there. I'm going to use an Amsterdam. This is Oxide Black. Doesn't take a lot. It's just a really small, thin coat. I'm trying to close the thing. What time is it hard to close? Yes, you want just a very thin, even coat. You don't want to bury everything that you just transferred underneath a giant slab of paint here. And again, this is going to be a laser jet image transfer for both the text and the face of Annabel Lee. Like that. 2, 3, 4. looks really cool. This is gonna completely dry. So now that that's dry, I got my Annabel. And again, I sprayed this with a varnish. I don't want this to be too, pristine. Now I'm figuring out where Annabel herself needs to sit in the composition. I'm not measuring this down to the millimeter. I'm moving things around until the visual weight feels right to me. I know, extremely scientific. I really like where she looks right there. It's okay if it pulls off a little bit of the text whenever I do this transfer. That's fine. I like the image there because it gives the piece more of that memory-like, almost a ghostly feeling without covering everything. And I'm going to introduce this with deep violet. I don't need purple everywhere. I'm looking for just enough to change the atmosphere and to give me contrast against the other elements. And if it obscures part of the lettering, that's okay. And I actually like that. I don't want every word perfectly readable. I want some of it emerging through the layers. Just to give it a little bit of a hint. Annabel. So, look at that. Oh, I really like that. It does. It looks really cool. All right, now I need. See all this extra purple? I don't want it right there. I'm just gonna take some of that off with a wet rag. It's okay. A little bit of that. Once the previous layer is dry, I'm going to start reverse painting. I did use a sponge with some sky blue just to pat it enough color to give a suggestion of the background. And I'm blocking in the lighter areas before I move on to the remaining colors. Because remember, we're looking at this from the back of the eventual print. That means you constantly have to think a little bit in reverse, which is excellent because, normal painting apparently isn't complicated enough. I am going to speed this part up considerably, not because anything secret is happening, mostly because there are limits to how long I can reasonably expect another human being to watch me dab paint onto a gel plate. The important thing here is that I'm continuing to build the color from the image side backward, keeping the layers relatively controlled and allowing them to dry before I move to the final pull. This is one of those stages where it can look slightly questionable, and that's normal. At least that's what I tell myself. What's that? Now, let's go in. Now that everything's dry, I'm ready for the final pull. I'm using titanium white for the pull layer. Again, I'm looking for a nice, even coat rather than a mountain of paint. You want just enough to, help reactivate and give the paper something to grab to and to pull up the previous layers. For the paper, I'm using my favorite paper. It's the wet strengthened teabag paper. It is my go-to paper in general because it is thin, but it can still handle what I'm asking for it to do here. I lay it down, rough side down against the paint, and I press firmly. Press it firmly. Then I've got a big book. And I'm going to bring in my highly specialized printmaking equipment, my big book. Apparently, at some point in life, books stop just being things to read, and they can become heavy objects used to smash artwork against gel plate. What I really want is that good solid contact across the entire surface. Now we get the part that never gets old, the final pull. Just take your time and pull the gel plate from the paper. Look at that. Came away really cleanly. The tea bag paper is thin enough that the finished piece still has that delicate quality. And we've picked up the lettering, the transferred imagery, and all those painted layers underneath. This is exactly why I like working this way. You can plan the composition, you can understand the technique, you can make all kinds of very intelligent artistic decisions, and the gel plate still reserves the right to surprise you. So if you're trying an inkjet transfer to gel plate, the three things I'd pay the most attention to are: one, your paper, because different printer paper combinations behave differently. Two, your contact, because I get much better results when I press that image firmly against the plate. And three, your paint layers, thin and controlled, be bearing the image under too much paint. But just experiment. You should check out this video to see a comparison of inkjet transfer and laser image transfer. Thanks.